Hi there, Phil again. This tip is one of my ones relating to design, and in particular it is about the style that you choose for your garden and property overall. There are a whole range that you can select from. Generally I suggest that you choose ones from a regional or national basis, so it might be Spanish or Chinese or California, something like that. There's no particular reason to do that, but that does lead you in a particular pathway that can be useful. Once you've chosen that, you can be quite specific and precise and pedantic about the way that you apply that. However, you don't necessarily have to do that. So in my case, with my property here, I've actually chosen 3 different styles for different areas. So I have suggested in another tip that you divide your garden into different zones and garden rooms, each of which can have its own style and flavour. The first thing that I would consider is the existing style. The style of your house and the permanent features, such as existing plants, can influence your planning. It is useful but not critical to match these with your garden style. It is often surprising how contrast between house and garden can actually be aesthetically pleasing and interesting. Using my property as an example, I purchased a 1940 rough cast or stucco house, which suggests a Spanish or Mexican theme. Also, there were large cordyline trees at the back boundary, which could lead to a more tropical or exotic approach. Secondly, your environment. If your region suffers from periodic drought and water restrictions, this would suggest a desert theme rather than, say, a traditional English garden style. My environment is quite benign, never too hot or cold, and I rarely get frosts. This suggests not using an alpine approach. Those plants wouldn't do well here. We also get regular rainfall, so there's no need to take a desert or prairie approach. I am fortunate in that I can choose a wide range of plant types, including fruit and vegetables. Your personal preferences. You may have a desire for cut flowers, flamboyant foliage or artistic features. Personally, I love to immerse myself in vegetation. I also love to spend time sitting or wandering outside and to appreciate art. Fourthly, your situation. This may include your ability or willingness to invest in landscape projects, a need for ease of care, or considering a future encompassing young children or your own old age. In my situation, I have always had a modest income, so have limited funds for landscaping. However, I do have the skills, energy and passion to work hard at developing my garden projects, including hard landscaping such as concrete walls and making my own pavers, so that is to my advantage. There are various styles that you can select, generally regional or national ones, such as Mediterranean or Spanish or Chinese. However, once you have done that, there's no need to be pedantic about that. You can use that as a departure point to go in certain directions. However, when you do that, as I've done, as you'll see in a moment, you do need to be careful to remain consistent to that style. And sometimes I fall into the error of being away from town and I'll see an interesting plant or artwork that I think is beautiful and I think would fit within my property. I purchase it, I bring it home, and I find it doesn't actually fit at all. So I think it does pay to be fairly careful about your choice of the elements that you include once you've chosen your landscape style. So I'm going to discuss 3 or 4 and how I've related most of them to my situation. Firstly, English style. The arts and crafts style is very suitable for a home garden. A symmetrical structure uses formal lawns and flower beds laid out in precise architectural lines, maybe along a central axis, leading the eye to a central feature, such as a fountain, sculpture, or elegant summer house. The formality can be softened with frothy plantings. Seasonally flowering plants, such as roses or perennials, are commonly planted in English gardens, softening the strong lines of structural elements, such as hedges, pergolas, or obelisks. Mediterranean. Now this is actually the style that I chose for the core part of my property, the courtyard. In my case, I had been travelling in the south of France and I'd been delighted by the courtyard cafes that I found, and I decided that I would choose my next house on the basis that I could develop a courtyard style garden for my property that I could sit within as I am now. In my case, I took a Mediterranean model as a concept rather than literally. A key element is usually a pleasant patio area enclosed by masonry walls or buildings. In my case, I had an L-shaped house to which I added a studio and painted concrete walls to add the Provençal touch. My patio in my case is shaded by a jacaranda tree and a sun umbrella. Rather than the herbs, rock roses, etc. favoured in the Mediterranean, I've chosen succulents, palms and bromeliads, many of which would actually struggle in a Mediterranean climate. Mediterranean gardens often have a statue and or a water feature as their focal point. In my case, I have a formal pond including a modernist sculpture made by a local artist. Exotic. This is the style that I chose for my front garden, partly as it is an expansive space mainly viewed by people driving or walking by or approaching or leaving the house. The concept of an exotic garden features dramatic foliage and lends itself to flamboyant colours. Unlike the previous style, there is little need to worry about subtlety. Vibrant flair and colour add to rather than detract from the overall effect. Exciting colour options include yellow, orange, red and magenta. While unsuited to some garden styles, I use variegated foliage in my exotic garden to provide year-round colour. Japanese. This is the style I chose for the retreat at the back of my garden. However, I used the concept or philosophy behind a Japanese garden rather than slavishly choosing Japanese maples, a tea house and a sozu or bamboo water feature. Instead, I focused on the natural environment and a contemplative design. The visitor is led in a mindful journey, winding informally through the garden to a resting area, in this case terracotta paving, seating and a hammock. The different elements, my native plants and the hard features, are harmonious and balanced but not symmetrical. My native tree ferns are loosely grouped rather than in matching pairs. I used the existing cordyline trees as part of the design, and this artwork, made by my wife, who has sadly since died, represents uncurling fern fronds. Now, you don't actually have to choose a national or regional style for your garden. You could use as your point of departure ideas from Harry Potter or science fiction or a single colour that you might choose. So really, your original concept is a departure point for your imagination and also what is practical in your garden. So I hope you got some value out of this tip. I have got a range of other ones about design concepts, including garden rooms and also transition and exit points through a garden and artwork. So I suggest you also view those ones to get an overview about the opportunities that you have for your garden. Just a reminder to like this tip and also to subscribe to my channel and to share it with others. These are what helps my channel to grow. And finally, thank you very much for watching this through to the end. Goodbye for now and good gardening.